We are ready to start our next session. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first panel session of this conference. My name is Tatiana Preobrazhenska. I am from the Ukrainian RAN URAN. I am marketing communication specialist, and also I am chairing the both panel sessions of the conference today and tomorrow. Our today's topic is the evolving cybersecurity landscape. Let me introduce you participants. First of all, our moderator is Grigory Sagyan. He will lead the discussion. He is the Vice President of the Internet Society of Armenia. We have 4 panelists. Pierre-Henry Cross is in charge of Scientific Prospecting and Partnership and Informatics Research Institute of Toulouse, and he is the partner of setting up of the future European Cybersecurity Competence Network. Professor Lila Budagyan is a head of Selma Center, the Secure Communication Group at the University of Bergen in Norway. She is a member of the Norwegian Academy of Technological Sciences. Magdalena Jonsa is Privacy and Intellectual Property Legal Advisor at GEANT, and Gevorg Markarov is the head of Information Security and Software Development Department at the National Polytechnic University of Armenia. So, we are ready to start. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation. It's our session, I think, is very important for EaPEC countries. Why? Because we have, as a former Soviet Union, a lot of problems which are common for us. One of these problems I want to underline is cybersecurity. We have a very large definition in our community, in Eastern European, some of Eastern European countries. We have a very large definition for information security, but we don't have a definition for cybersecurity. And there are a lot of documents which were signed in frame of Collective Security Treaty Organization. And members of this organization, it's a military organization, the members of these organizations are Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. And all of these documents which we have there are, they are using this concept, informational security, which means it's hard to translate, but I have translated it using Google Translator. Information security of Armenia is the protection of national interests in the field of information with interconnectedness of the interest of the individual, society, and state. As you see, this definition allows to cover everything, not only technical aspects of informational security, but also it's necessary to take care about content, about limitations, if it's necessary. We see in some countries there are very strong policy on content on information. Fortunately, in Armenia, we don't have special organization who is taking care for content. At the same time, I want to say that in 2017, at September 27, in Armenia was accepted a strategy of informational security of Armenia. Unfortunately, this document is confidential. It's not published. But we have some information about this document, but we don't have any rights to discuss. In this document, by the way, I can say there is a definition for cybersecurity, but unfortunately it is not a definition which is accepted in the world. As you know, in the world we have at at least two definitions. One of them is ITU definition. It's very long, but it's based on consensus because ITU is an intergovernmental organization, and there were a lot of there is a lot of information which I think is not necessary to include in this document, but we have it. And the second document is which is common for everybody, is cybersecurity or cyberspace security, which defined as the definition is provision of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information in the cyberspace. Here we see another new term, cyberspace. And it's very hard to understand if we take Armenian or Russian definition, what it means, cyberspace. Do it has borders, or maybe does it have borders, or I don't know. So we don't have any real formal description of this. So my main questions for our panelists are: is it possible to develop cybersecurity landscape when this concept is not defined by our law? And we don't use internationally recognized definitions. Is it possible to combine measures to ensure the operability of the cyberspace and protect users from dangerous content like fake news, hate speech, or any information which is not accepted by this or that ideology which is in this or that country? Is it possible to combine these two various approaches in one document, which the name of this document is informational security? Or it's necessary to have separate approaches? And in world practice, we have that CERT, Computer Emergency Response Teams. They have very important role in cybersecurity field. And the question is it necessary to have one centralized CERT, which will give orders to other companies, private companies, governmental companies, to companies who are owned critical infrastructure? Or it's necessary to have horizontal CERTs who have their own jobs, and they can work independently but with coordination from any central body. So this is main questions, and first of all I invite Mr. Markarov to say his opinion about this question.
Well, okay. As a representative of the university, we are say that we are working with both terms, with information security and with cybersecurity. Even our department still called information security and software development department. But actually we are dealing with cybersecurity because we are dealing with security in the cyberspace and with security of the human in the cyberspace. The second is a little bit different issue, because if we talk about the dangers which came from the cyberspace, we can talk, let's say, only with cybersecurity of the cyberspace. It should be enough, but we need to protect users' data in the cyberspace. It is mostly a private data of the users, and because of this, they think it will be very important to increase the framework of training, of awareness for the general public in very, very basic issues of cybersecurity for them to prepare to protect their own data in the cyberspace. When we go to the cybersecurity from the side of the cyberspace, usually users do not see it. It is the problem for the professionals. It is the problem for the organizations which is responsible for that sector. But once again, from our point of view, security of the user's data, it is the most important part, and we have to do something with that to increase the, including the public in this all processes, in the trainings, in teachings, and so on. And on the governmental level, we also have to do something regarding this.
Do you have any jobs to how to protect users from harmful content like hate speech or any harmful information, or I don't know, to protect from any bad information, let us say in few words?
Well, for sure there is, I can't say a lot of, but few tools for do that. And it is important to just inform general public about these tools and how to use them and so on.
But mainly it's, your information security is cybersecurity.
Yes, sure.
Sure. Oh,
and even we thinking about renaming of our department.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think the second part, not only about cybersecurity, is computer emergency response teams, and they have very important role. Can I ask Mr. Pierre Michel to tell us about his network of cybersecurity centers and tell about their main jobs?
Okay. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer, and more particularly Leonie and Rash for their kind invitation. So I'm pleased to make this short presentation. I hope to help you to understand how I plan to contribute to our discussion. So, as part of its reflection on the European cybersecurity strategy, the EC has selected 4 pilot projects to advise it on how to establish and operate a European cybersecurity competence network, and how to develop and implement a common roadmap for cyber research and innovation. It's important to highlight that the work we are undertaking, the recommendation we will finalize, should influence the 2021-2027 calls for cyber security within Horizon Europe and the other calls. And the budget, the plan or the forecast budget is around 3 billion euros. So the work within this pilot project could have a strong influence. So you see already that the budget that has been given to this project is important, and each project has about 16 million euros to carry out his work and to contribute to the objective I just described. What is important also to note is that we are not in competition, so it doesn't mean that these 4 projects are working on their own. We are working on their. In fact, we are composed of the 4 center, the 4 pilot projects are composed of different participants. So, for instance, the project in which I am, CyberSec for Europe, the highlight here, is composed mainly of representatives of the research and university community. So the idea is, in fact, to ask the project leader to meet monthly in Brussels to share their results and to coordinate their work. And once a year, we are meeting, the 4 projects are meeting to exchange and explain how they are preparing the future. The first meeting is organized by us in Toulouse this November 2019. And if you are interested, you are welcome to join. You can, there is on the web more information about the agenda. So the CyberSec for Europe has also, even if we are all contributing to the world same objective, we have some particular objective, and for CyberSec, one main objective is governance. And even if it is not the only objective, I would like to, for my talk, to focus on this particular objective. And one of the reasons is because, as you can read, to work on it, it will be, the objective is to be really very concrete. And so is why it has been decided to rely on something which is already existing and which is based in Toulouse. And this project or this already existing center will play the role of pilot, or the role of the first node of the future network of a competence center in cybersecurity, the European network in this domain. Just, it's not very easy to understand the picture, slide, but it's just to show you that already in Toulouse, the ecosystem we set up in Toulouse is composed of industry, is composed of supplier, is composed of university, is composed of local agency. So it's not something organized for a particular community, it's something which is open to all the stakeholders in cybersecurity. So based on this group of people, we have to understand or to better define the way the model of governance we will implement. We have been asked to work on real case. So a process has been established. I will not comment the process, but more insist on the way that on the left you can see that we are involving widely. I mean that along suppliers, retailer and research and development organization, we have effectively involved citizen, company, and organization as end user. And we are back to what was said already this morning by Eric, but also you just highlight, is important to have everybody, all the actors being involved. So to test this model and to test this approach, it had been identified 7 particular subjects. And I would like just to focus on one of them, which is incident reporting. Why this one is because it's this one on which I more particularly work. And to identify the main challenge, the main problem of this demonstration case, we have launched a survey within the 26 European countries, based on a questionnaire sent by mail, telephone interview, and face-to-face meetings when one member of our consortium was in this country. So the conclusion are summarized here, but again, for the today's discussion, I would like to mainly focus on the two last problem and challenge, and we are back to what was just said by our colleague a few minutes ago. One of the very first point is really to ensure that everyone, regardless of age and role, is aware of the dangers that can be encountered in cyberspace. In fact, it's like when you are learning to drive, but you are not just learning what is a car and so on, but you are also you learn about the danger of the road, and it's something. In fact, this training, this awareness is really something important. And the other point is also to have better measure the cost of this attack from a money point of view, but also from an image point of view, and also to assess how much it costs to protect yourself compared to how much it costs you for restart your enterprise or recover all your data. So it's what I would like to highlight now, and I hope that for the discussion we will have later in the panel, we can see how together what measure, how this point can be handled and better can be then implemented. Thank you.
Per-Henrik, let me ask you one question. Do you have any centralized chief of your network? Maybe you are, to whom you are reporting about your activity, or who is your supervisor?
Alors, the supervisor was, I'm saying that was, because for the moment she's still in the loop, but we don't know exactly what will be his real final function, is the Commissary Gabriel. So we are the Commissary Gabriel, so it's really the top level, and she was in charge of cybersecurity in the previous, in the Juncker Commission. So I don't know for the next, if it is still her, or if it will be the French, Mrs. Boulard. So it's not clear. We are...
And can I ask, do your recommendations are mandatory for people involved in your chain?
No. They are no. It's recommendation, and the people.
Just recommendations.
It's recommendation. Yes, we are not. The objective is more than recommendation. Is really to finalize ideas together that then are the people live as owner of the proposal that has been finalized. More than, please, some experts think that the best way to do is the following, and then.
So it's up to them. Follow to your recommendations or not to follow?
It's really to have them again becoming owner of the recommendation we have finalized, more than oblige them to do like that.
So we can say that it's an example of decentralized model.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
It's a decentralized model, but again, it's a network. So the idea is to have the information circulating, and in every way, so that at the end is not just a different node, is a real consortium. Okay.
I suggest to ask questions if you have, I mean our guests, if you have questions, let us ask them after presentation of Dr. Budarian. She represents, she tell better.
Thank you. So, good afternoon. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me here. and I would like to present the CELMAR Center, to which I belong. So it's a secure communication group at the Department of Informatics of the University of Bergen in Norway, and we are involved in cryptography research, and cryptography is a fundamental part of information security, and it provides mathematical methods and techniques for information security. Our group also provides information security education at the University of Bergen. So primary research fields in our group are cryptography, coding theory, Boolean functions, and quantum information theory. So these are all different kind of topics, but what unifies all of them is that they are directly or indirectly connected to cryptography. And all these research directions are highly competitive, and in many of these directions we are considered to be one of the best in the world. In particular, we are one of only 2 ICT groups among 63 groups, ICT groups in Norway, which have always got the very best evaluation from Norwegian Research Council provided by international reviewers. And our group consists of 25 people, 5 professors, 5 adjunct professors, and the rest are postdocs and PhD students. And half of our group is supported by projects, so we are very active in getting and applying for projects. For the last 10 years, we had more than 12 million euro in projects, and currently we have more than 5 million euro in projects. And we are also very active internationally. Only the last 3 years we organized or served as program chairs of 13 international events in information security, cryptography, and related fields of mathematics and other topics. And we are also very active in international journals. Again, during the last 3 years, we served as guest editors for 7 special issues. Again, different topics related to information security, cryptography, and other related topics. We also initiated and support cryptographic Boolean functions Wikipedia and database, and initiated George Boole Prize again for cryptographic primitives and Boolean functions. We also, our information security study program is very popular with students, and we completely renewed it this year. In particular, we started a new course, Cybersecurity, which became a mandatory course for all students in Department of Informatics. And I have to say that now there's a tendency in Norway that not only students in informatics department, but in all technology-related departments should have cybersecurity as in their education. So we also discussed with my colleagues that cybersecurity education is very important. It doesn't matter how strong are the technologies, information security technologies which are used. If they are not implemented properly, this is just in vain. And regarding recommendations of what kind of cryptographic algorithm should be used, I believe this is more international. It cannot be just specific to Armenia or western or eastern part. So there are 2 types of cryptographic algorithm. One of them is when the algorithm is publicly known and the security is provided by the key, and the key is kept secret. And then there are several well-known cryptographic ciphers, well-studied and recommended by international scientific community, and several of them are accepted as standards by different well-known standardization organizations. So scientific community recommends to use these ciphers, and this is also would be a suggestion for Armenia. There's another possibility that not only the key, but the cipher itself is kept secret. And the security is thought to be provided by the security of cipher. But unfortunately, in this mode, very often the cipher can become known to secret agencies, and then since it wasn't tested for security, it may have faults unknown to the designers, and then it can and most probably will lead to very serious problems. So this is, in more specifically, what kind of cryptographic ciphers would be recommended to use? I think we have a very good, well-known internationally specialist in cryptography. Gurken Kachatran is present here, who can give good recommendations on that, and clearly we are also ready to help with these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Budayan. Let me ask you one question. Your developments, if you want to implement in existing RFCs, let us say in our standard protocols, is it possible, or you have any problems to implement in existing security measures when we have HTTPS, for example, or PGP? Can you put your development in these tools?
The ciphers which I'm talking about, thank you. The ciphers which I'm talking about, they are more international standards, and they are developed in a way that they can be implemented and match with each other. So this is, that's why also they are highly recommended. And one of the ciphers, advanced encryption standard, which is actually provides security for internet infrastructure and used in more than 2 billion devices. It's developed by one of the members of our group, Vincent Riemann. And this is one of the ciphers which is compatible to practically, so all computers and different softwares are developed in a way to match this cipher.
So you have real practical results?
Yes, not me, but
your
in
group.
my group. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and our last speaker, Magdalena, can I invite you? Thank you.
So it's starting from the back. We were talking today about a lot about cybersecurity, and I think what we are. My point is that wherever we have cybersecurity, we have criminals that are working without the borders. And when it comes to data protection, we have only national legislation that is limited to the country specific. So the point that was highlighted here before, that international cooperation is extremely important, because otherwise it's impossible. I think even 20 years ago, we couldn't imagine some of the technical developments. So without, and the other issue is that any definition of cybersecurity will never include everything that it's possible, it will be possible in the future. Additionally, now in Europe, there is this data breach requirement that was introduced in 2016. The breaches are more reported, but I think no matter whether the breach is, there is this requirement to report a breach or not, we should, as a users, as a communities, we should demand that we will be informed whenever our data will be leaked. And I think there are also specific challenges for Eastern Partnership region, as Grigori mentioned about cybersecurity definition itself. There is also no data breach reporting requirement as far. Here it's very important role of the CERTs and research and education community to share the knowledge, to share the best practices. When we talk about the cybersecurity, it seems like a very far and not familiar concept. But the consequences of not having cybersecurity measures are very serious. And the global cost of data breach for 2019 is already 3.9 million of US dollars. And the cost is rising every year, because in 2018 it was just not much less, but it was 3.86 million of US dollars. And in 2017 it was a little bit less, 3.62 million of US dollars. So the tendency is increasing. And the consequence of data breach is not only the financial loss, it's not only the reputational loss and the loss of trust of the people, but also there are serious consequences, like it can be identity theft, it can be serious stress caused by, for example, nuance calls. So it has really huge impact on our daily life. And I think just a curious thing to check for anyone, if your email has been breached. I think it's a good idea to check whether our passwords are strong enough, or whether we signed with our passwords. So thank you very much. Excuse me, I have also a question to Mr. Makarov, who mentioned that is working on software development, and I think that is hidden part of the cybersecurity, the how to make open source software secure. Do you have any specific measures in place?
For sure. There is some techniques to ensure the security of the software, and we are teaching these techniques, and our alumni can do it.
Okay. Thank you. Magdalena, let me ask you, you don't speak about GDPR. I know that you have much more information about the development of this part of cybersecurity, if we can say. What do you think, what is your opinion? Can we say that there was a success after implementation of GDPR? Or today we have some problems with the implementation and maybe the main idea?
I would say that GDPR is a huge step forward, the security itself, because from one side we have privacy that is implemented in GDPR. From the other side we have cybersecurity and information security. So everything forms part of bigger picture, but I think for us, for people, for the communities, it's very important that now there is this requirement of report data breach in the first place, and if the consequence of data breach are serious, also data subject, which means normal people who were impacted by data breach, will be informed. So I think it's happening. I would say that implementation is still happening, and it's like huge change of thinking, that it's still happening, and it's requiring a lot of training. So I would say that it's very similar to cybersecurity, that training and awareness is the first step. Because if we will not verify certain things, that then we can simply be a victim of phishing attack. And I would say that research in academia sector is not the most targeted one, because it's the health industry, but still the phishing attacks and other malicious attempts are happening.
Thank you. And then one more question. GDPR is European, yes, but it has some influence on also Eastern Partnership countries. If we will violate some points of GDPR, if, for example, if I have in my registry Europeans and I don't take care to pass all GDPR procedures, what kind of penalty I can expect from European Union? We are not European Union, but I know that there are some measures.
Well, in the first place, when the GDPR will be applicable, I think that's the very specific situation when, for example, you are targeting European Union citizens, and then GDPR will be applicable. And if it's applicable, then you cannot choose that I will apply this and I will apply that, and I will not care about this. Then you are forced to apply everything, and then the consequence can be really serious, because depending on the nature of breach of the GDPR, you can be fined up to 10 million of euro, or up to 2% of your global turnover, or up to 20 million of euro and 4% of your global total turnover.
Even if we are not EU member state?
Yes, that's another option how it will be implemented outside Europe. But there were, after this scandal, Cambridge Analytica, there were attempts to fine a Canadian company by UK Data Protection Authority. So I think the history is happening now, and we will see what will happen.
Okay, the history is happening now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, dear users, dear participants, if you have questions, please, our panelists are ready to answer. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm Alfonso Ferrera from the French CNRS. I'm working in Toulouse as well. So just a quick comment on the GDPR. So it's a very good question, and I mean, it was important to mention it here. So I was in Brazil last week, and actually they have a law that's called the local law for general data protection, and it's very much based on GDPR. So it's not only that GDPR is applying as a law to other countries, but it's also shared as best practices to other countries. So this is extremely important. So my question is for Pierre-Henri. So we're working together in putting forward this center. And I noticed here that actually Jean is very much preoccupied as well with cybersecurity, as I mean we saw in the first lecture and now in the panel. So my question is, would you think that it would be interesting to integrate Jean in the efforts that you're doing towards the cybersecurity competence network? And if so, if you have any ideas on how to actually link Jean and these cybersecurity expertise hubs. Thank you.
And so there is something interesting in CyberSec for Europe is that usually when you obtain European contracts, the partners are defined from the beginning end to end. In CyberSec for Europe, we have the possibility to welcome additional partners. They will have a special statute, but they are partners of the project. So if effectively, and maybe I'll let you answer to the question to have Gian joining, if really it's something relevant for you, you know that we have the possibility to manage something efficiently.
All about the cooperation, and I think we should continue this conversation after with our CEO, Eric and Chris.
Any other question?
Yes, my question is primarily to the moderator, Grigori Sadyan, but to all of you. So actually, you talked about cyber security and whether we have to have a centralized services or we have to distribute and so. So if we have a centralized and they are owners of these centralized networks, whether it is similar to the one that we have a nuclear weapon when it is concentrated in some countries and they are governing actually and keep all the countries under the pressure of their power. The same thing is going on when these networks and the owners of networks are in particular countries and can dictate their own meaning, their own way of thinking and their own way to penetrate and manipulate with people. So can you just have some remedy against that, or what do you think? How we can avoid that? Just you said that distributed networks and each of country have to have its own one. But again, we come to the situation when now we had a nuclear weapon. It was in United States, then in Soviet Union. Now it's spread it all the world, and we have a danger. We don't manage this danger all over the world. Thank you.
No, in this case, the difference is that both are in one country, and these not enemy countries. You can say about competition between agencies, but you cannot say about war, because these agencies inside one country. The problem is that if you will have any centralized cybersecurity center, the orders from this center can be mandatory only for governmental bodies, because otherwise you have to change all your law, the system of your law. If you have governmental center can send orders to its structures. If you have central bank CERT, it has right to send orders to all banks. But governmental center has not any right to send an order to central bank, because it's independent bodies. Of course, they are not enemies, but they are independent bodies. Today we have only one document which is regulating cybersecurity. It was a governmental decision about protection of websites and local area networks of governmental organizations. This is our National Security Agency, responsible organization. That's it. All other organizations are ready to create their own information cybersecurity measures, or to be a part of any large chain of centers, or to have its own, like we have in central bank has its own, let us say, computer emergency response team. But we don't have any policy about critical infrastructure. What we shall do with critical infrastructure. For example, nuclear plant. It has its own network. Is it reasonable to third organization enter into the local area network of the nuclear plant? It's a question necessary to understand. So, and I think international experience in this case can give us any right ways to resolve the situation, how to do, because we are clear white list now. We don't have any structure, except of course National Security Service. But just European approach, ENISA, we don't have, we are not member of ENISA. We can learn ENISA's experience. We can learn our French friends' experience how to create this chain of trust, but necessary to do it. Thank you. Any other question? Dear panelists, maybe you have questions. No?
Maybe it's something at the end of my talk I discuss is about the training. So Netherlands is known as a country where little kids are trained very soon on this, and it's the reason why your country, this country, is not has less level of attack. Phishing, you were speaking about phishing. You know more about that, and maybe you have some idea of the type of, because I understood that in my presentation is not a cornerstone, but it's something important, this training. So some idea to develop, and if you think that it's a good idea, in fact, to start from the training.
I think the issue is that the Netherlands is one of the most targeted country, and that's why there is the highlight on education. And I think that only targeting kids, starting from a very young age, you can achieve good results. because now we are living really with having our phones constantly with us, and we are not thinking very critically where we are providing our data, our emails, our other critical information that can have really serious impact to our lives. So I think only good training can stop us before having a data breach. So I think it's and I'm not aware of an international program or training, and I think that's definitely a field that should be discussed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that education is very important, training of people, and maybe some education from school, starting from that, and then some education in the university. As I said, in Norway they already take it seriously and try to make it cybersecurity course as a mandatory course for all departments related to technology.
Another point is, in your work, you are involving also the citizen, the basic citizen, not only the specialists are around the table, or it's the same for you?
Yeah, I absolutely agree about that. Yeah.
Dear panelists, dear participants, I want to say that the session is recorded, and our rapporteur will prepare short description of a past session, and I'm sure that we will have your opinions, and we will represent these points of view. I think we have a consensus that learning, decentralized, and cybersecurity is a security of cyberspace, and we will present it in our Armenian International Internet Governance Forum, which will held in October 10, 2019. Mr. Shugurian, Professor Shugurian, համեցեք։ Կարող եք գալ ստեղ։
Hello? Okay. I would like to make some comments at the end. Of course, cybersecurity is a huge problem and a huge headache for the world. Okay, there is a cryptography which is somehow related to cybersecurity, but why people talking about cybersecurity, we have a good cryptography? Because the cryptographic algorithm, what Lilia mentioned, for example, advanced encryption standard, is a very good algorithm. If you encrypt something with that algorithm, it's computationally infeasible to guess the key or break the algorithm. Okay? If you, for some reason, could encrypt everything in this world, like all the packets, all the frames, traveling in the internet, everything, then cybersecurity problem will be solved. So what's the problem? Problem is that key management is a headache, is an Achilles heel for modern cryptography. Because you cannot handle this key management for billions of users, for billions of IoT devices, for all this world. So that's the real problem. So the real problem is to find the efficient key management which connects billions of users over all the levels of all the stacks of the internet layers, like it should have had agility. For example, the existing technology, for example, is used for TCP/IP, for example. It has sessions, it has handshakes. With everything you have to rekey over again all the time. So that's the huge problem. That's why people talking about cybersecurity. Of course, there are much policies also involved here. But the major problem is technical problem. If you can solve technical problem, imagine again, if you can encrypt everything and you can decrypt, who needs to encrypt? Then this will solve the cybersecurity problem. So that's the major problem I wanted to solve. And then I know something about how to solve this problem, but I cannot talk now about that.
I have a comment.
Yes.
It's possible to capture data before encryption.
Well, you know.
So it's another problem. So
yes,
before
right.
encryption, it's possible to capture it.
Yeah, that's of course. That's not cryptography problem, but of course. And also obfuscation, key obfuscation, program obfuscation is a major problem too. There are a lot of work going on about obfuscation. So you have a program, you obfuscate in the way that if the bad guy gets the program, he cannot understand what's going on inside the program. That's also part of cybersecurity too. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. If there are any questions or remarks, please. Please. Last question.
Yeah, I don't diminish the cryptography. It is very important. But when I am confidentially like to send someone, really cryptography is very important. But how we can fight against Google, who is sending to all of mind, and here's just personal data for each of us and sending information primarily without any cryptography. It doesn't need cryptography, and we're reading and our brains are changed. Which cryptography can help here? Yes, I know. I agree with you completely. When I am confidentially sent something to someone, it's really true. But against the weapon, as a weapon of Google, who just influencing to all brains.
Not only Google, let me say, there are 5 companies in the US and 3 companies in China. So I think on this positive note, it will be very interesting to close the session. Thank you very much, our panelists. Thank you for attention. So we will meet, I think.